Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Now, here's your host, Aslan Hajavandi.
Welcome on into this Monday edition of Wake Up War Chant. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. You already know that. Corey Clark joining us, as always, on the program. Corey, describe your mood, your behavior, your attitude right now.
I mean, it's a Monday morning, bright and early, so not great. Not great, but it was a good weekend. Overall, it was a nice weekend. I hope you had a good weekend. I know you were on the road.
Yeah, it was good times. That should be the lead story of the day. But first, let's talk about For the Table Hospitality. 3 fine locations in College Town, Madison Social, Township, and Central. Check them out. I think you'll like them. I do. I really do. So, yeah, I was on the road. We started off the weekend, myself and Gene Williams, a.k.a. .com, a.k.a. The Big Boss, a.k.a. the founder, administrator of WarChant.com, over in Cape Canaveral for the Brevard Seminole Club's party. They were honoring, I guess, Coach Bowden. They were airing the Bowden dynasty. Actually, at the Kennedy Space Center, Corey. When's the last time you've been to Kennedy?
Never.
Really?
Never. I want to go, and I want to take Brady one time. I think it'll be a really neat little kind of trip, father-son trip, but I've never been there, no.
Yeah, I haven't been since I was a wee lad, so it was kind of cool to get out there. It was really crazy that they had it there at the visitor center. It was very nice. Everybody was there, man. Lee Corso showed up. Mickey Andrews was there. And a birdie had told Gene that it was very likely that Willie Taggart was going to stop by, so that kind of was our main motivator. But, yeah, listen, man, he's cool. Like, I mean, I know that sounds kind of weird, but, like, he's just cool. Willie Taggart's a really cool dude, Corey.
We've talked to him a couple times, kind of off the record, just shooting the breeze. And he's a guy you can talk to. You know what I mean? He's just a guy he's a guy. He's not this larger-than-life football coach, this presence that you don't feel like you can interact with or shoot the breeze with or joke around with. He'll joke around with you right back, and he's a cool guy to hang out with. And I think I was going to ask you got to see him interact with obviously Bobby Bowden and other people and other famous Florida State alums, but just fans. And what was that like? How was he in that setting? Because, again, I don't want to get into it. We won't get into it. The guy before him wasn't great in those settings. How was he in that setting?
He was a star, dude. Everybody – I mean, everybody – it was kind of weird because, Coach Bowden walks in, everybody starts clapping, giving it up, and they put Coach Bowden literally in this corner of the room with a chair so people can line up and start getting autographs. He's not even seated for 30 seconds, I feel like, and then Willie Taggart comes in, and the whole room just explodes with applause, and a lot of people start shifting over there and getting around Taggart. But Taggart was, legitimately, I think that event was supposed to start at 6:00. It probably started a little bit closer to 6:15, and it went a little bit longer. He stood there for over an hour, and he shook everybody's hand that waited in line. He signed every little thing. He interacted. There was a little kid who, said his name. He was like, "Can you sign this ball and put my name on it?" He knelt down and got the kid's name and was, talking to him and signed the ball. 50, 60-year-old couples, white, black. everybody just gravitated towards Willie and wanted a picture with him, wives joking with him. And he was, yeah, man, he's the goods. He's the goods. He's the elixir, the antidote that this fan base sort of wanted, especially the people that are at a booster function like that, right? Those are the people who enjoy interacting with their coach really on a personal level, and he seemed to really shine on that, and I guess that's because of relatively what was preceded him.
Well, and I'm really interested to see how he does on the booster tour, because as we put up on War Chant yesterday, I guess, that again wasn't Jimbo's strength. And let's be honest, he's paid more to win football games than to do that. But that is part of the job. And Jimbo would flatly just not go to things sometimes because he just didn't want to. Well, but Willie, that's a part of the job. And it's there's a time now where it's like he's kind of wanting to heal some wounds a little bit. And again, you talked it. He's the perfect elixir for that. He's a great person to do that because he does seem at home and at ease shooting the breeze with people. I keep wanting to say shooting the blank with the other S word, and I keep catching myself not to do that.
Strong. He's strong like bull. Strong like bull, Willie.
shooting the breeze, and he's really good at that. He comes off as a down-to-earth guy, an approachable guy, which is a big deal. And I also say this, because he did meet with Bowden earlier in the week, which became a cool little story that they met and hung out. He shows the proper reverence for the guy that built this program, and I think that's a really neat thing for Florida State fans to see too, because again, it was ugly when Bowden left, and people are ready for him to go, but it's been almost a decade now, and people, I think, having stepped back from how ugly that was and how bad the program was at the time, they obviously will always remember and respect and cherish and love the guy that created the program. And it was really neat. I'm sure it's really neat to see the new coach show the proper reverence and respect for the guy that built the thing in the first place.
Yeah, Willie Taggart is walking into an infinitely better situation, I feel like, than Jimbo Fisher had, just in terms of obviously where the program's at and just the overall sort of feel around, not the predecessor, but the guy who put this program on the map. You can cast the stones you want at Jimbo. I know there was a quote that Bobby had about, I stayed away because I was pretty much told to stay away. Or he said something along the lines of, I felt like I was going to be in the guy's way and I didn't want to get in the guy's way. Willie told me to show up whenever I want. I think it's tough to Jimbo, I think, was in a tough situation there. I don't want to, throw any more dirt on the guy than we already have. But there's a time to get Bobby integrated back into the program. I don't know if it ever would have felt right with Jimbo. But with Willie, it does feel right, and I think it's something that is really going to kind of propel this offseason of really good vibes. This honeymoon is going to be that much more sweet because he seems to get it, and it's not forced, it's not contrived, it's authentic.
Yeah, he just, again, we're in February. We're not in September or October, so it's all with a bunch of grains of salt. But he hits every right note. He has hit every right note with the Florida State fans from the moment he stood at that podium and did the chop and said he was so happy it was a dream job. He's just hit every right note. And yeah, they're completely different scenarios from when Jimbo took over. And number one, Bowden he's 8 years removed or 9 years removed now from the job. So it's not really like he's looking over his shoulder. You know what I mean? It would have been a little awkward for the guy that replaced Bobby Bowden to then have Bobby Bowden around all the time. I remember Auburn did that with Pat Dye well into his retirement, it seemed like, where Pat Dye had a real say in what was going on with the program. I'm like, man, that's not healthy. You don't want that. And Bobby Bowden always said that. When he left, when he retired, he always said, I think he said he would move. Like he just didn't want to be in the same town, but he certainly made a point of staying away. Part of that was because it was a pretty bitter divorce there at the end. But part of that was he wanted Jimbo to build his own program and not have him over his shoulder. And I don't think Willie Taggart is concerned. Like, I don't think Willie Taggart is territorial. Like, hey, this is my program. I don't need any outside influences. I don't need the guy breathing over my shoulder that won 2 national championships. He doesn't look as Bobby Bowden like that. Bobby Bowden's not threatening. He's 88 years old, but he's a beloved part of he's the builder of the program, and for him to show again that much reverence was just perfect. And again, we wouldn't have been surprised if we were not. It's not a surprising thing that he did that because again, Willie Taggart so far has done everything just about perfect. Again, though, it's February. Valentine's Day just passed. This isn't really the important stuff, but it all matters. And this is part of the job, and he's handled it really well. Now, obviously, he has to go win football games.
Yeah, just a little minor detail. Get out there and win some games.
Right,
but
for sure.
No, I mean, he owned that room, and it wasn't. That sounds so cheesy. I just feel like he was at home, man. He was really at home. I just said, man, I'm sorry, but he was really at home. Everybody that wanted a photo got their photo. Everybody that wanted the handshake got their handshake. So it was really kind of cool to see him embrace that because at the end of the day, I mean, football coaches, they don't want to do this sort of stuff, but you have to realize it is part of the job, and Willie did not seem uncomfortable at all. The really cool thing, too, was they did a sort of last call, like, all right, this VIP or this event is over now. The movie's going to start across the hallway, so please, if you've already got your photo, move to the other room. And, GeneWilliams.com, our boss, was, I don't even know where, but he was doing a speech elsewhere in the visitor center for some of the fans, and I text him. I'm like, listen, do you want me to go ahead and grab Willie and some of the coaches? Because it felt like once this party was over and the movie started, we weren't going to get anybody. Like it was going to be sayonara for getting any sort of sound bites or anything like that. So I just go right up to Coach Taggart. I'm like, listen, I'm like, I know you got to go. I'm like, can I grab you real quick? And he was like, no. He's like, you're good. Go ahead. You're fine. So, I sat there. We talked about for 2-3 minutes on camera. And then, Gene showed up and Gene went one-on-one with him outside. And that's what you guys could see on warchant.com if you hop on there and see the story. And, it was kind of weird because I handed the microphone to Gene, and Willie kind of looks at me like I thought we were done here, man. I was like, oh, no. I'm like, the sound was a little bit messed up. So you guys just go ahead and do it again. It'll be fine. He's like, okay, that's cool. And, yeah, I mean, he ripped there sat there for 5 minutes, and Gene asked him some questions, asked him some, direct questions in terms of who's looking good in practice and things of that nature. And Willie, answered every single thing. There was no ducking or shrugging a question off or speaking a million miles a minute. It was an authentic answer to real questions about the state of the football team right now.
Well, and again, though, we'll see what it's like in a couple of years. He's been on the job for 2 months, so of course he's putting that best foot forward. When it comes to the media, I think he is going to be a star on the booster tour. I think he is going to be a guy that's always magnanimous and ingratiates himself to rooms he goes into, because those are the people that, quite frankly, pay his salary, and he understands that, and he appreciates that, or at least he will pretend to. But right now it's 2 months in, so he's maybe a little more lenient than a guy that's been on the job 7 or 8 years, or Bowden's case 30 years. Although Bowden was always great with the media. That's what I'm hoping we're kind of getting back to, is a guy that appreciates. It's never going to be like the way it was with Bowden, and nobody will ever be as great with the media and the fans as Bobby Bowden was. But, there's two spectrums. There's two sides, and, they don't have to be exact polar opposites. I think Taggart seems to be a little more towards Bowden. You brought it up how people always said Jimbo is a combination of Saban and Bowden. Well, not really. But Taggart's not a combination of Fisher and Bowden. He seems to be a lot more in the Bowden camp, towards that side, where he wants fans to feel at ease to come up and talk to him. So we'll see, though. It's in February of his first year. But so far, again, everything you hear, every interaction you hear about has just been glowing.
It has been. The show's been glowing so far through one segment. Let's see if we can keep it going for 3 more. Keep it right here. It's Wake Up War Chant on ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Welcome on back into Wake Up War Chant. I'm Aslan. He is Corey Clark, senior writer for warchant.com. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 great locations at College Town, Central, Township, Madison Social. Go visit them. You'll enjoy yourself. It'll be a good time. Corey, busy weekend, as always, for the Noles. Let's start with the really good first. How about the track team, right? The men's and women's teams taking ACC championships. Clean sweep, right?
There you go. Maybe FSU will become a track school again. And in all seriousness, it had really hit a lull after, they obviously won the 3 straight national titles and then had other teams that finished second in the country and won a bunch of ACC titles. Well, they hadn't been very good the last 2 or 3 years. Well, they've ramped it up recruiting, obviously. And, it's good for Bob Brayman, good for Coach Brayman to get another ACC title on both the men and the women. Maybe this is the year they get back in the national title hunt. They're like 5th or 6th in the country. The men are, and that's always I assume Florida State fans. There aren't many that follow track and field closely, but everybody's excited for conference championships. So it was a really nice weekend for them.
Hang the banners. We like the banners. They're always fun.
That's right.
Hopefully, Florida State men's basketball team can hang a banner for another NCAA tournament appearance. But if they play like the way they did on Sunday, it will be a one and done, we would assume. 92-72 losers to NC. I don't know if that sounds really bad. They lost the game 92-72 against NC.
Well, they were losers. On Sunday night, they were losers. We're not saying they're losers in life. They're obviously very skilled. They're playing ACC basketball. Sunday night, they were losers.
All right. Let it rip.
Right?
92. Yeah, I'm trying to be more diplomatic, but 92-72, NC State wins that game. Florida State, a combined 0-15 from three-point land. They didn't make one single three-point basket. I don't think that's really good, especially when the other team goes 13 for 22, which is about 60% from behind the arc.
Yeah, it's never great to be outscored by 39 points from the three-point line. You got to figure that might have had something to do with losing by 20. I don't know what you say about that game. That's the game. I mean, you can say all you want that, about they didn't come ready to play, they didn't have energy. I don't know if that's the case. They just ran into a team they couldn't miss, Some of it because they decide sometimes just not to guard three-point shooters. I mean, it's not all, it's not all guys throwing in 30-footers. Some of them are really good shooters that you keep leaving wide open. That has to change. They did the same thing with Pitt in the first half and let teams get this confidence. That's been a recurring theme here the second half of the season. Remember, they beat Miami at home when Miami hit 17 three-pointers. Notre Dame, Matt Farrell killed them from three. I mean, they got to figure out a way maybe to slow down teams from three-point range somehow, some way. It's a new sport now. Everybody can shoot. Everybody's got three guys on the floor that can shoot. And so maybe you switch up the defense. I just don't understand how. And, NC State missed their last 4 3-pointers. So they were 13 of 18 at one point. I mean, what? I mean, that's crazy that you don't do that in an open gym just by yourselves. And meanwhile, Florida State's just throwing up brick after brick after brick. So I don't know how much you could take away from the game other than they're just not very good defensively. But we knew that anyway. Usually they're good enough offensively that they can keep themselves in the game. Sunday night they weren't.
At what point, though, do you learn to defend the perimeter? I mean, as you mentioned, it seems to be a reoccurring theme here. I don't know at what point does it change, or is this part of the makeup of the team and they're just going to have to deal with it and hope the other team's just cold?
I mean, I think that's it. And I also think part of it is the way Leonard coaches defense. It's always inside out. You want to protect the rim. Well, I just think maybe it's too late this year. But maybe as they head into next year, because all these guys are coming back except for Angola, maybe they can. And his defense has worked great in the past, but they are one of the worst defensive teams in the ACC, maybe the worst statistically in conference games. There's so many good shooters in the ACC. I don't know that you can collapse on the guy with the ball to leave dudes just wide open everywhere. And that just seems to happen a lot to them. Part of that is because they don't guard the ball great, which is always a problem. Last year they had X guarding the ball, and he was really good at that. Well, they don't have that really anymore. So, and Trent Forrest, I think, can be a good defender. He has his moments, and he was by far the best player on the team last night. But still, I think it's too late for this team. You just got to hope they miss, because they're getting carved up by some teams. And also understand NC State's very talented offensively. They're not really good defensively, but they're playing really well, and they've got some guys that can really shoot, and they run good offense, and they run good sets, and they look for them in transition. And Florida State just got kind of housed last night. They didn't have any answers, and when you go for 15 from three, it's hard to beat anybody in your schedule, much less a team that's going to go to the NCAA tournament that's playing really well.
And
Heck, they had one guy, Braxton Beverly, missed 5 3-pointers. He was 0 for 5 from NC State. The rest of the team was 13 of 17. I mean, that's craziness.
Yeah, and they had a week to get healthy, and that was the belief that maybe guys like Terrence Angola, Brian Angola, maybe the rest would do them well. If anything, it wouldn't be one of those rusty rests. It would be one of those revitalizing rest periods for them, and clearly it was not. I think that's the kind of bummer thing. And again, this is a team that hasn't been blown out. Besides, I mean, that Notre Dame game kind of got away from them towards the end of the point. But at no point were they competitive in this ball game, which is kind of the downer as you're heading into March when things start really to matter. Lauren Brownlow from Raleigh tweeted out that Leonard Hamilton says his team gave effort, energy. NC State just matched and surpassed theirs, plus executed better. Our wise friend, Irish O'Fell, as well as our boss, says he doesn't disagree. I don't think FSU was listless. They just shot it awful from the perimeter, and a confident NC State team shot it great. Really as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that. If you want to look at some bright spots, Angola, he went 0 for 4 from 3, and so did Terrence Mann, and Terrence Mann doesn't need to be taking 4 3-pointers. But Angola did hit 4 baskets, which for him, I think in his last 6 games, he was 11 of 51. And he was 4 for his last 26 from 3. So now he's 4 of his last 30 from 3, which is ridiculous. He's too good a shooter to be doing this. But he had 14 points in 24 minutes. He got to the line. That's something maybe he can build on because they're going to need him. Trent Forrest had his 3rd really good game in a row. He had 16 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and 3 steals in 32 minutes. Those are some bright spots. And then the Obiagu kid had 6 blocks in 13 minutes, which is – I mean, good grief. That kid, by the way, if he can just learn to catch, he's going to be something in a couple of years because he's a defensive superstar. That guy just erases everything. But, he's such a liability on the other end that they can't play him much. And he does get lost a bit defensively because he's a freshman and that's going to happen. But if he develops, he's got a chance to be a really nice player too. But otherwise, man, Terrence Mann again wasn't very good. C.J. Walker just wasn't good again. He had 3 bad turnovers, 0 for 3 from 3. When he's not hitting his outside shot, he's not a great – he's almost to the point where you don't want him on the floor. He needs to be knocking down threes to be productive, to be a contributor, I think, in the way they run their offense. He's not a guy that finds guys. He's not a guy that drives in the paint and then can dish out. He's just not – that's not his style. That's not his game. So he can be a liability at times when he's not knocking down his shot. But they also give up 92 points. I mean, what game in the ACC are you going to win when you give up 92 points in regulation? It doesn't happen.
With C.J. Walker, I will say he does show a nice knack of actually driving to the paint, but when he does get to the rack, he just doesn't really have a lot of good options. It feels like once he finally does get to the baseline.
Because he's 5'11", so and he can finish sometimes. He's okay at finishing, but he's not great at finishing. And he's not one of those guys that drives to kick it out or drives to drop it off. He drives to score. That's what when he gets in the paint, that's what he's doing. And sometimes it's hard over 7-foot guys when you're 5'11". He's a bulldog, man, and he's a great competitor. And I think his energy is really needed on that team. But when he doesn't play well, the team can really struggle. And there's been plenty of games this year where he hasn't played well. I think what you're seeing is down the stretch, Trent Forrest is going to be the guy. Because that's 3 games in a row. Again, when you're looking for positives, that's 3 games in a row where he's been really good and one of Florida State's best players. And he's a guy that can control. He's just a good player. And he can't shoot at all, but he's a pretty good free throw shooter. And he's good at getting to the basket. He's good at passing, a good defensive rebounder, pretty good defensively. I mean, he's a good player. He's got much more upside, in my opinion, than C.J. Walker. He wasn't good the first half of the season as he came back from his injury. Now you're kind of seeing the real Trent Foster, and I think looking forward to next year, you're going to see a really big jump.
Trent Forrest, Corey, correct yourself. You said Foster. Say Forrest.
Oh, sorry, Trent Foster. Who was that?
Somebody will yell at you on the Twitter machine, I'm sure.
Sorry, Trent Forrest. Trent Forrest, I think, has a chance. Not Trent Foster. That kid's a
jerk.
Trent Foster's one of the worst players I've ever seen.
Ever.
Trent Forrest can ball. And he's going to be a big-time player next year in the ACC.
Florida State drops a game by 20 points. They drop to 19-9 on the season, 8-8 in conference. They will play Wednesday at Littlejohn against Clemson. No better way to get off the schneid than against a ranked opponent on the road. One really shining spot for Florida State continues to be the baseball team on the diamond. They do shine bright like a diamond. That was cheesy. Let me regroup. We'll be right back. It's Wake Up War Chant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source, knows now is a time of true excitement for Nole fans everywhere. That's why WarChant.com is especially proud to announce its newest team member, senior writer Corey Clark. Combine Corey's expertise with owner Gene Williams and managing editor Ira Schoffel, and WarChant.com boasts nearly 50 years of experience covering the team you love. It's Taggart time in Tallahassee, and that means now is the perfect time to sign up for your free 30-day trial. From National Signing Day to March Madness, WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
He's Corey. I'm Aslan. This is Wake Up War Chant. Thanks for being here, folks. The show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. Check them out. 3 great locations over at College Town, Township, Central, and Madison Social. Over at Madison Social, they have something called Madison Social Ale. It's a gold medal winning pale ale brewed for them just by Proof, or brewed just for them, rather, by Proof. That's kind of cool, right, Corey? Like somebody makes a beer just for them only, an exclusive brew. I don't know.
That is pretty neat. It's a cool name, too.
Yeah, I don't think it tastes like Michelob Ultra, though. But
that's fine. People, different tastes for different buds.
There you go. Well played. Yeah, check it out. Madison Social, man. It's good times. All right, so good times at Dick Howser Stadium all year long now. 7 up, 7 down for the Noles. All 7 games have been at Howser. They'll go on the road Tuesday to take on Jacksonville, but no Tyler Holton, no problem. That's really hyperbole. I took a play out of your book there, Corey. But another great weekend from Florida State. The pitching is really delivering in every sort of situation.
Yeah, you kind of wonder, obviously you lose Tyler Holton, so the pitching staff is going to be not as good. but it still has a chance to be really good. I really liked what I saw from Pollock on Sunday. He's a local kid too, like Tyler Holton. And
you
like
love
Tyler
plugging
Holton,
the
man,
local kids. You still got that newspaper guy, and you're always plugging the local kids. You're always
got
so proud of the local
to
kids.
Tallahassee native. And he reminds me of Holton in that sense that he was not nervous. He did not have stage fright in any sense on Sunday. And I know it's Troy. It's not a super regional. But, man, he just went up there and he just got the ball, got the sign, pitched. Got the ball, and he even said so afterwards. He's like, man, it's just baseball. He goes, it's a bigger stage, but it's just baseball. And it's like, man, that's the perfect mentality to have when you're a freshman pitcher being tasked to replace an All-American. And that's what he is, because obviously Sands and Parrish were in the rotation anyway. Pollock is the one that's replacing Tyler Holton. And, judging by what he did Sunday, he's not going to be Tyler Holton. But he can be pretty darn good. And if Cole Sands is going to look like he did on Friday night, if that's his new body, new self.
That's a new normal?
Then, Florida State still seems pretty set in the starting rotation. Now, they lost depth with Tyler Holton. And, again, I'm going to keep couching it. They're not going to be as good without Tyler Holton. But when you saw Pollock, and Parrish and Sands can be good, man, they got a chance to be a really good pitching staff. And the young arms in the pen, man, they're impressive. I don't know, they're going to have the hiccups because they're young guys. They're freshmen. But, man, they brought in some arms this season. But more than any I can ever remember, this class of newcomers, since I've been covering them for the last 11 years, this is by far the best class of pitchers they brought in.
How does that happen? Does Mike Bell get that much more comfortable with the recruiting base out here in Florida that, now he knows who to go after, or he's got his system in place? It's bizarre to constantly be worrying about pitching. It feels like year in and year out for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And then, it feels like overnight they're set. I
think they started offering more money. They just said, hey, whoever, Austin Pollock, we'll give you $45,000. Come to school. Now, I don't have any idea. And I wonder what the going rate would be for a college baseball player anyway. If the kid in Arizona is getting $100,000 to play basketball, and he's like the second best player in the country, I wonder what a good college baseball player would get on the market. A couple thousand?
5 books. Not just
I was
going
to say a couple books. Yeah,
5 textbooks.
Organic chemistry books.
Maybe some
I don't know how it happened, to be honest with you. And some of them are JUCO guys. Some of them are guys that maybe had some arm issues in high school where they dropped off scouts' radars a little bit, and Florida State got lucky in that regard. Some of them are local kids like Pollock that always wanted to pitch at Florida State. It was just a perfect storm where you're looking. And Kobe Johnson, I know, isn't a freshman. He's been here a while. But it's almost like he's a newcomer because you haven't seen him in so long. So he's a guy that comes on, out of nowhere. And all of a sudden you got all these guys. And I thought it might happen because when Voiles went down, Haney went down, and Zerzow went down with injuries, and now Zerzow and Haney might come, or Zerzow and Voiles might come back. Usually Mike Martin loves to pitch the experienced guys in high leverage situations. He always goes with the guys he thinks he can depend on. That's natural, really, for most baseball coaches. Well, he doesn't have that luxury this year. He has to pitch young guys, so they're being thrown into the fire. And he's seeing right away, okay, how can these guys handle it? And there were some hiccups this weekend. There were too many walks, too many times where the guy's throwing all fastballs and can't even throw a strike. That's going to happen with freshmen. But the guy's throwing 94 while he's doing it. So it's just getting them on the mound, getting them reps, and then by May or June, they might all, 3 or 4 of these guys might be real difference makers.
Florida State 9-4 winners over Troy. Austin Pollock gets the victory in his first start. 6 innings pitched, scattered 5 hits, only 1 earned run, 2 runs overall, had 3 strikeouts. Kobe Johnson, 1 inning, scattered 2 hits, 3 Ks. Man, he's punching guys out left right. I'm really intrigued. I don't know if he's just going to be a good middle relief kind of guy, Kobe, or if they have any hopes or aspirations of somehow working him into being maybe a Sunday night guy if somehow maybe Austin, shrinks in a moment, but it doesn't seem like he would at any point. And we're not even talking about Andrew Karp. They got so many arms. It's like a really, really good thing.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it, and they don't have the best pitcher of all isn't there anymore, and you forget, they got Karp. Karp's a really good pitcher. I shouldn't say really good. He's proven to be a really good pitcher. Last year he struggled with consistency, but when he's on, he's he's draftable, like top 10 round draftable. He's got some life, man. And I don't think Kobe Johnson is a guy that will be a starter. I think, especially coming off Tommy John, I think they think they're good with the starting rotation. And I think they got some long guys they might want. I think you might see him work into the role where he's your closer. Because, he's pitched 4 innings this year. He's got 10 strikeouts. That's a nice ratio to have. Plus, I think they made a point of pitching him on Sunday after pitching him on Friday to see if he could go 2 times in a weekend. To see, because that's what you need out of your closer sometimes, especially in a big series. He's going to have to close 2 games in a weekend, maybe 3, but certainly 2. So they wanted to see how he responded after just 1 day off. And again, he went out there and struck out the side. So I think he might be – I would lean more towards him maybe being a closer than being a starter. But either way, they got a bunch of arms, man. The Connor Grady kid, he threw 40 pitches in 1 inning on Sunday. He was kind of all over the place. But his stuff is pretty electric. C.J. Van Eyck was like the most heralded kid in the class. And he's only had 1 appearance, but it was no earned runs with a strikeout. So they got guys that they really – the ceiling for that bullpen, it's young. But the ceiling for that bullpen, I think, is as high as they've had, again, since I've been here.
Constant Kobe. Should we call him that? Like everyday Eddie, like constant Kobe. Get him out there like pretty much every day, just shutting it down. Or no?
Close the door. I don't like
the door,
that one.
Close the door, Kobe.
You don't want to do Kobe beef, right? Because that doesn't make sense.
Right. Close the door, Kobe.
I mean,
too many
give
words.
me the break, and I'll come up with a better nickname than anything we've offered so far. There's got to be something out there.
No faith in me, huh? Noles back in action again Tuesday at Jacksonville.
I got it.
All right, stop everything you were doing.
To be or not Kobe. Nope, that didn't work either. I thought that was going to be money, but nope. Yeah. To be or not Kobe didn't work either.
We're almost done with the program. Hope your guys' money's going as quickly as this show is gone. We'll be right back. He's Corey Mazlon's Wake Up War Chant.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Spread your love and fly. Spread your love and fly.
You've made it through 3 segments. Surely you can hang on for about 10 more minutes. He's Corey. I'm Mazlon. It's Wake Up War Chant. We're brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 locations over in College Town. Free parking in the first 2 levels of the College Town parking garage, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., which makes Township, Madison Social, and Central 3 great options for your lunch outings. We need to have one of our weekly War Chant outings coming up here soon at one of those locations, Corey. I like when we have our team meetings. Although you're going to have to
man, I'm down for that for sure.
You're going to be remote this week, so we'll just have to Skype you in or something or put you on FaceTime.
Skype me in, but the next time, obviously when we have a big company-wide meeting, then, it needs to be about 10:30 at night at one of those places.
There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. All right, man. Spring football is so far, but yet so close, or some personnel moves. I guess apparently Andrew Baselli has left the program, son of Tony Baselli from the Jags, Southern Cal fame. Isn't he a Hall of Famer? Tony Baselli, despite all the injuries, I think he actually made it into Canton, if I'm not mistaken. But his son,
did he make it, or is he one of the guys that they think should make it? I can't remember.
That's a good question. I will go ahead and look at it. But also one of the things that we found out while we were in Cape Canaveral is that the quarterback situation is going to be a pretty much a 2-man race, obviously with DeAndre being injured, but Jake Rizzo is no longer with the program. I know there were some rumblings about him potentially having left the program, but we were able to confirm, Gene and myself, that he is no longer with the team. I'm not sure what exactly the situation was, but it will basically be Hockman and Blackman taking all the snaps under center. And as I filled you in on that, I was able to check. And no, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He's not in Canton. I take it back.
But he's one of those guys that they always make the argument that he should be in.
He was fantastic when he was healthy. Just wasn't healthy. He just wasn't healthy enough, I guess. But he was a NFL '90s All-Decade team. 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. So not bad credentials in any event.
Either way, we can agree that he was much better than his son turned out to be. Nothing against his son, but he was here for 2 years and didn't really ever crack the lineup. Wasn't going to crack the lineup apparently, so he moves on to other endeavors at another school, I assume.
His story is yet to be written, but best of luck to him wherever he does go. Yeah, and I don't know where he would factor into the offensive line plans. I remember asking, it'll be an interview probably up later this week from Greg Fry. I was able to speak to him at the Brevard Seminole County Club party down there at Cape Canaveral at Kennedy Space Center. And just kind of, what do things look like in terms of the players that he has, that 2016 recruiting class that we keep talking about. And, he's not too worried about, figuring out a depth chart right now. It's just kind of seeing the way these guys are performing and the hustle they're having during the chase. And him and Willie both seem to be very pleased with how things are going. I wonder if we'll see any more sort of defections or attrition throughout the chase. I wonder if this, if guys just aren't cut out, or it's just weird. I don't know. You feel like there was one tweet by Alexander Marshall, that really tall tight end from the Northeast. I don't know if he's from Connecticut or where, but he was kind of saying how different it is, obviously, in terms of one coaching staff is doing everything they can to make you want to play, and the other coaching staff, shame on them, or something to that effect. So maybe it's a little bit of a culture shock for some of these guys, the way Willie and the strength coaches are running things now in terms of preseason conditioning.
Yeah, but I don't know that it's like exceedingly harder or more difficult. What's odd to me is usually the guys that would leave Rick Trickett, usually offensive linemen that would leave, obviously, were leaving because they couldn't play for Rick Trickett. He had 7 or 8 leave over the course of his career, maybe 10. Who knows? I lost count. But Rick Trickett leaves, then Baselli leaves. That's kind of an odd, just an odd way that happened. But you never know with these kids. I'm sure there will be attrition. I don't know it'll be because of the chase. I don't know that this is a weeding out or a prove your mettle type thing, as much as it is, kids might realize, okay, I'm not going to play here. And, and these guys didn't recruit me. I don't have a relationship with them. Maybe I need to go somewhere else. I don't think that's going to happen to most of them. I think most of them, from what we hear, are really bought in. And from what Willie and Greg Fry told you, they seem to be really bought in, right?
Yeah, Willie said that this is different than any other place he's been in terms of the buy-in that he's gotten from players this quickly. He talked to these guys about, remember why you came to Florida State. Why did you come to Florida State? And the prevailing thing was to come win a championship. So he says they all realize and have refocused on the goal that brought them to Florida State in the first place, and he's been really pleased with how they've come out. Gene asked him for some guys that have stood out, and one of the first name he dropped was Marvin Wilson, which was super cool to hear because this is the guy who was a 5-star guy out of Houston.
Right.
LSU thought they had him until the final day, and the previous staff was able to pull him to Tallahassee, and then by and large, didn't really see the field all that much. I mean, enough to burn a season of his eligibility, but in this day and age, these guys are going to get 3 years out of them. They're going to be gone. But that was one of the first guys he mentioned. He also dropped the name Jaden Woodby, true freshman who's, an early enrollee. So cool to hear him kind of – I don't know if it's better to hear a coach only name – 2 or 3 leaders in his mind. I forgot who. I don't know. I think he might have said James Blackman as the third. He only said 3 or 4 names, whereas Jimbo would just say 15 guys, right? It was just like ba-boom, 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 boom, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. And it's like, okay, well, I guess that's awesome if there's 15 guys that are standing out, but then Saturdays would happen, and then.
Right. Well, and again, Jimbo would do that a lot when he'd ask him how's Rashad Green look? He goes, oh, he's look good. So is, whoever, Kenny Shaw, Greg Denton, whoever, and he'd run down the list of everyone. It's like, man, I wasn't asking about Kenny Shaw.
Yeah.
I want to know about Rashad Green. And he would do that a lot with leaders, too. He'd mention 7, 8, 10, 12, like just names that, he's thinking and more names would pop up. I think it says something when you name 2 or 3. You're right. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think that's good. I think because if you're naming 15 guys, well, how many of those guys are really leaders? But and I don't even know if it's a leadership thing as much as if they're really standing out and impressing. I think James Blackman is a leader. I think that's kind of in his DNA and his blood, especially. And so that's good to hear, even as a true sophomore, really still kind of a true freshman, to be honest. He's still a true freshman school-wise. For him to be a guy that Willie Taggart mentions right away, that's a really good sign. It also might be hey, Mr. Backup quarterback who's trying to rehab and get healthy for next year.
Stop throwing footballs at the Pike House.
Here's a guy I've noticed.
Yeah, he's busy throwing the ball over the Pike House while James Blackman's out there trying to lead guys. One of the interesting comments that Willie mentioned was he likes the leadership that he saw, and he was trying to tell the guys that yelling is not being a leader. Picking a guy up and encouraging your teammate is also being a leader, and it kind of made you cringe. Because you're like, dang, were things that bad? Because, we hear family when we hear all these recruits talking about why they picked Florida State, why they gravitated towards Willie Taggart. Well, a lot of the guys that are on the roster right now said they came to Florida State because they said it did feel like a family with Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher would always talk about, listen, when football's over in 15, 20 years, they're all going to come back and they're going to talk about the relationships and yada, yada, yada. They're not going to talk about ball. But clearly, there is obviously something amiss. And to hear a coach really push these kids to listen, we don't have to be jerks to one another to win football games. We can kind of, put our arms around one another and help each other out. That's another cool thing that, listen, in September, we'll see. If they're 0-3 after the month of September, we can get angry. But right now, that's a cool thing, I think, to hear.
If they're 0-3 in September, I think we might be all calling for Willie Taggart's job.
No.
Because that would include a loss to who's their second game of the year? Sanford?
No, everybody will be really reasoned and rational. Everybody's going to give them all the time they need.
I feel like I'm a pretty reasonable, rational person when it comes to sports.
Yeah.
And even if they go 0-3, I might be writing the column. Look, he seemed like a good hire at the time, but obviously it's time to move on.
Virginia Tech, Samford, then at Syracuse. Those are the first 3 games.
Yeah, we don't need to be 0-3 during that stretch.
All right, I got you.
That might be a bit of a struggle. You might be looking at 0-11 then. And that's a little too much talent to be there. But, yeah, man, I think it's, you talk about family. Every time a kid signs with a school, it's almost always family. That family atmosphere is brought up. So much so that I don't really pay any mind to it. It's just become kind of recruit speak. But I do think that when they do feel like you like them and they like each other and they will play for each other, man, that has a way of permeating an entire culture and changing a culture. And I do think that they're going Willie even talked about how he wants his coaches to prove to the players, okay, this is how we're connected too. We're not just here as, mercenaries. We're connected too. We like each other too. And so when the players see that the coaches get along and the coaches are friends and the coaches care about each other, then that can find its way to funnel down to the players. And I think that's what all this is about, man. Obviously the chase is about, getting in shape, all the stuff that you need to do in the off season. But it's also just about trying to build a team and a culture and change it. And, he seems to be really happy. Of course, it'd be weird if he said he wasn't. That'd be alarming. But, I think that's a big deal. I think these things are a big deal to try to get a team that buys in to the coaching staff, number one, because they're all new. They weren't recruited by any of them. But then also to each other, to start playing for each other again. Because Willie Taggart's mentioned that a couple of times, that he didn't see that last year on the film. It did look like a team that played for each other. And when any team is at its best, it's playing for each other. And when you have the talent that Florida State has, and you can all buy in, man, you can win things. You can win shiny hardware when they play together and they're connected. And he knows that. So that's what he's trying to do in this month before the spring practice starts.
Yeah, in my limited time covering Alabama last year, you were able to see that all those guys, man, they got along. I mean, that was a close-knit team despite whatever, blank chewing that, Nick Saban does on his assistant coaches on the sideline. I mean, that still was a team that they all played for each other. They did enjoy each other's company. I know several players would come during the playoff games, would be in the locker room afterwards, and they would be going around and congratulating the guys that were on the team, and lots of hugs, lots of, inspirational tweets back and forth after games. So, yeah, I mean, you can be a tough drill sergeant of a coach, but you can still foster a sense of family and unity, which it sounds like Willie's doing. And listen, it's got to be a little bit even unnerving or anxious for Willie because, like you said, he didn't recruit those guys. So I don't know how much of these kids, these 5-star studs, are like, listen, you got to prove yourself to me. I came here, I committed to this guy that put X amount of players in the NFL. I don't know you from Adam. I heard you're a cool guy or whatever, but like you need to sell me on things. So the fact that it seems like Willie is winning these guys over, again, I referenced a tweet by Alex Marshall, the tight end, freshman from New Hampshire, that was kind of uplifting the coaching staff. It's got to feel good to be welcomed in already. It's this quickly. It seems like Willie's persona is not only winning over the fans quickly, but it seems like the players as well.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. Much more important than fans or boosters or the media. He's got to get those players on board because they're the ones that are going to keep them here. And, by all accounts, they all really like the guy. in more than liking, it's not really important if you like your coach. Although he's a likable dude, you got to believe in him. And that's what he's working on right now, is getting them to believe in him, in his message. Because again, they don't know him. They came to play for somebody else, and that person left. So they gotta trust and believe in this guy. And from all accounts, it's only been a couple of months, but that's starting to take place. And you know the guys that are going to be coming in 19, 20, 21 are going to believe in Willie Taggart's message because they signed with him. But it's getting these guys to buy in, which is important in the short term. And I think, I just think he has that personality. His coaches seem to have that personality where they're going to believe in what's going on, and they're going to believe in what this guy's doing. And, again, we'll qualify it till the day is done. That it doesn't. We'll all know in September and October how that message has resonated. But so far, everything you hear, it seems to be going just about as well as could possibly be imagined.
Yeah, the tweet I keep mentioning from Alex Marshall was, quote, "It's funny that one coaching staff can motivate you to work. Shame on the other." And then it's an emoji with its mouth zipped shut. So I guess it gives you a little insight. The one guy I want to talk to, though, I really want to talk to Cam Akers. And obviously now that he's a sophomore, we'll be able to because, having covered Cam a little bit when he was in high school, and it kind of came down between Ole Miss and Florida State. And I don't know how much it was obviously the fact that the hammer was about to drop on Ole Miss with the sanctions and the uncertainty around there. But I feel like there is a good amount of the whole Jimbo Fisher aura of getting guys into the league and running a, quote, pro-style offense that really made Cam ultimately come to Florida State. Because Ole Miss with Hugh Freeze, yeah, they'd knock off Alabama here and there, but they never did it with a running back. It was always throwing the ball, and they were never committed to a running game. So I'm really curious to kind of see how on board Cam Akers is, because I feel like that's a guy who has his eye on the prize of making it to the NFL, like a singular focused mission. And if he's bought into things and he's obviously your best player, I feel like, if he's on board, then that's going to slowly trickle to everybody else on that roster.
Yeah, and especially if they're going to do the wild cam and let him, sit back at quarterback 8 or 10 snaps a game. Of course he's going to be on board, right? Don't we think that's going to happen?
They got to let him, man. Come on, he's the peacock. You got to let him fly on this one, man.
Yeah, I mean, he can throw, right? Did you cover him in high school?
Yeah, he can throw the ball.
He can throw a little bit, right?
Yeah. No, he's athletic, man. He can throw. I mean, he's not gonna, he's not gonna make us forget about Jameis Winston. But listen, if anyone's they're gonna put an extra guy in the box. And he does that whole little feint where you take that one step forward, you take a step back. He's going to throw, and he's going to be pretty darn accurate. So
throw a little tunnel screen to DJ Matthews.
How about that? Let's not get carried away now. Let's the tunnel screen.
I'm just saying. Yeah, obviously Cam Akers is the guy. He's the star of this team, burgeoning star anyway. And he's, like you said, I agree. He's probably the best player on the team. Getting these guys to buy in, I don't know. The NFL, Cam Akers he could have gone to Harvard and been in the NFL. He came to Florida State for more than just that, but I think you're right. I think the pro-style offense was a big selling point. But also I think part of us, he probably was sold on maybe winning championships or playing for championships. His chances of that, in my mind, in the next 2 years, probably in 2019, I think his chances got better with the new guy. We'll see. But I just think he's going to be really excited about, number one, more attempts. He's going to have more yardage, I think, as long as he stays healthy, because they're going to be on the field more. The offense is going to run more plays. They're going to be a little more fun. He'll probably will get to throw the ball a few times, I think, in this offense. And, he doesn't like losing. I don't know anything about him from high school, but I doubt he lost a ton.
Nope.
And then this past year he was 3-6 at one point. So I think the thought of, okay, a new guy that can come in and maybe turn this thing around, that's got to be appealing to all these guys. It's not like Jimbo left after an 11-2 year. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, no, I hope we can keep this going. They all know that something had to change, too. Something wasn't working last year. So it's a fresh slate for all of them. And they just happen to get a guy that, apparently is really likable and, gets people to believe in him.
Exactly.
Boom, we did it.
There we go.
I still didn't come up with a Kobe nickname, though.
No Kobe nickname and all that time?
I was thinking Kobe Average because you love the be average thing so much, but that's not a really
don't patronize
a nickname that resonates either because you're telling them to go be average.
No, stop it. All right, good stuff out of you. Good effort out of you, Corey. Thanks for listening, folks. It's Wake Up War Chant. Jeff Cameron coming up at 3.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.